personal narratives, autobiography, math about autobiography. It's done a lot. I've been doing that in my classes for many semesters, and it's done officially. But we tried, and so this semester we had the idea of incorporating, how would you say? Integrating. Got the word. Integrating more math writing. So we had all these kinds of ideas. It could be cognitive, it could be explaining what you do, it can be how do you feel after an exam, it could be your math autobiography, a story, explaining the steps, logical. But we had to decide on one. So Kelly sort of model questions, and the one we decided on is after each exam. After 2 exams. After the first exam, we asked them how they feel. There's a series of questions. I think she'll find them. Series of questions. We asked them mostly how did they feel about the question, and did they study, how many hours, did they sleep the night before, those kinds of things. We'll go through the question. So we did that in 4 classes. Yeah, Kathy, Naima. So there's 3 people who are not here. Kathy, Naima, and Cleveland helped us also with the English, and Helen also helped us with the English. She actually put all my qualitative data together, because I didn't do quantitatives. I don't like numbers, even though I'm a math person. She loved numbers. So we did that. So after the first test and after the second test, and sort of comparing and look at our findings. So all kinds of questions. So that's all. And then Kelly will do all the thing, and we'll be here for questions.
I'm doing the whole thing? Okay, I'm going to present you my individual findings.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. So we had
planned to make some.
Oh yeah, so let me finish. So we had planned to, because we wrote a lot in this personal one, we had planned to present each slide, and each person will talk about their findings, but they're not here. So we're going to do mine and Kelly's, and then Kathy and Naima wanted the opportunity to do it at another time, but it's fine. Well, that's enough. What?
There's no other time, so maybe you can just flip through the slides. And
we can flip through the slides, but it's not interesting, just numbers.
No, but one thing to note is that I think in our email discussions, after we had already started this project, we came to the conclusion that a better way to reach our goal of improving math success through writing is to design writing assignments that, instead of saying solve this word problem or solve this mathematical problem using the steps, describe the steps that you would take to actually solve the problem. And maybe if we tried that as an writing exercise, instead of saying, I'm not asking, or write the steps to, what's the next step? Describe what you did.
Yeah.
What's the next step? Describe what you did. Write it down would probably help enforce that a lot of the common exercises that you have at the end of every section involve the same steps. And if you really understand the steps, then you know how to, you look at each homework problem or each math problem the same way, and you start to see the structure instead of, I have to memorize every homework problem in the book, which I think a lot of our students do. But this one was, we did exam reflections. So after the first, I did this on my calculus class. After the first exam, I gave them a survey to complete to reflect on their performance before they got their test scores back. I said, how do you feel like you did on this test? What were your feelings while taking this test? Describe your anxiety. Briefly describe how you prepared to take this exam. What will you do differently the next time? They gave them a second test, or second exam, and I gave them the same survey with modified questions at the end saying, do you feel like you did better? The same questions from the first one, and then added a few extras. Do you feel like you did better on exam 2 than you did on exam 1? I recorded those results, whether or not they did better or not. Also, what else did I do? We'll see.
There was also a few practical questions.
So I divided there were 30 students total. 14 of them scored an A or a B. Their average on exam 1 was a 91. Average on exam 2 was an 87. So on average, the A-B students did not do as well. Or their average difference. So they actually did worse. The A-B category did worse.
Is the did better, did worse their perception, and then the average is the reality?
These were actual. The average on exam 1 was 91%. The average on exam 2 was 87%. I took the difference between their scores. Took the difference between exam 2 and exam 1 for each one in this category, and took an average of that. So on average, everybody did about 3 points lower on the second exam. But the first exam was review and limits. The second exam was on derivative. Fs.
What does the did better mean? That 50% means that?
Half the students actually performed, they actually scored higher on the second exam than they did on the first exam. Half of them did worse. And those are just the average scores. So you'll see, you know, the F range, of course, you're going to have an F average. The CD range, of course, you're going to have a C or D, or this is the case where there were more Ds than Cs, because it's slightly lower. And here, there were more As than Bs in that category. I decided to split them up by category of student because our goal is to improve math success through writing. And a lot of the AB students might skew the data because they already know how to take classes and they can maintain, or we want to challenge them more, but really it's the CD students and your F students that you want to help the most. And so I wanted to separate them out separately and see how well they did. But unfortunately, the exam reflection, my interpretation was about half the students did better, about half the students did worse. I think I helped some of the students because some had big improvement. Not all.
I think you may have answered this, but I want to be sure that I got it right. Is exam 2 harder than exam 1?
I was going to comment on that as well, is the concepts of exam 2 were on differentiation. And I believe that once we get to calculating derivatives the fast way instead of using the limit definition, I believe exam 1 is harder than exam 2.
Exam 1 is harder.
I do believe exam 1 is harder than exam 2. However, half of the exam of exam 1 is review of pre-calculus. It's function things, but one of the most difficult concepts in a calculus class is limits. And exam 1 contained that section. And once that's a make or break concept, most people who really do poorly on the first exam will drop because they think it gets worse. So maybe we did do better. Maybe the exam reflection is a little,
It gets easier with the rules, you tell me.
It does get easier with the rules. You do see, though, that the struggling students did much better on exam 2. And I'm thinking that group, yeah, they on average did 2 points higher. Some of them did about 20 or so points higher, but then I did have a couple of 29s and 28s on exam 1. Please keep in mind that these statistics are with low numbers. So I did give a control of the entire group. So I think these probably are better assessments of the study. 30 students over. So on average, people score about 2 points lower, but I do think exam 1 is harder. So, and here it is in graph form. So to compare what I did here, and you can barely see, I didn't have time to actually change these to be lighter colors, I'm sorry. But I did put the percentages in there. So it seems like the AB students did worse, and so I just am comparing them on average. And with average on exam 1, the top one is all respondents. So it seems like your CD students. Anybody want to have anything to say about the CD students? Because that's the focus group, right? That's the one you really want to help. 91. Next one. Math confidence. So I asked a couple questions. Let's reflect. So these are some of the findings that I did find, and I did again split them up into AB students, CD. So top to bottom, so you can run down the list. And I did find, and we were noting in our email conversations, that a lot of people individually were reporting, no matter what type of student you are, there's a high level of math anxiety when you go and take a test. And what I found privately was there's more math anxiety among the AB students and the CD students. The B students seem to be okay.
That makes sense.
Get an A or get a pass.
It doesn't matter. Right. On average, 13% felt like 13 out of 30 people. So you got to remember, this is 30 people. 13% felt they were relaxed and had plenty of time to review. So these are the positive contributions. Just a little nervous, but fairly confident about my success. You'll see your AB students at the highest, just a little nervous, followed by your CD students. But your B students, they're always nervous. Not as well prepared to take the exam. you will see that your F students, about 20%, your F students and your AB students felt like they were well prepared to take the exam. So, math anxiety, so here we go. And your top 43%, I guess I can put it here, 43% panicked after a few challenging problems. Your CD students panic the most with 64%. As soon as they reach a challenging problem, they tend to freeze and waste time and probably spend most of their time on that one problem that is challenging. So, time management. Pressed for time, worried I wouldn't finish. Your A students felt that way. Or my A students felt that way. Ill prepared to take the exam because I did not study enough. Your A students felt that way. Your AB students felt like they did not study enough. So it kind of confirms for us, we don't need to worry as much about the AB students as we do about our struggling students, actually. So we should design some of these writing assignments about steps or process, describe how, or improve their writing of the mathematics, I think, because I think that that's the biggest problem that I have.
And is it 0% of the F students reported they felt ill prepared?
All 6. So I took every response, but nobody checked that button off. So you're going to see that none of these actually, if you add up the percentages, they don't add up to 100%. It's for each individual category. They don't add up to 100% because it's, I gave them check boxes, check all that apply. So some people might say, and of the 6 people who earned Fs or are failing in exam 2, they, none of them reported that they were ill prepared or studied enough. Interesting. Distracted with life situations seems to be pretty even across the board. About 20% of the class is distracted with outside life situations that prevent them from feeling good while taking the exam. Emotionally charged, your CD students are more emotionally charged with 20%, average being 12%. Highly anxious about my success on the exam, your CD students had that, which we need to work on.
It's so, maybe I'm not reading this right because it's so quick, but it seems interesting that the more successful students are more worried about their studying, and then the less successful students just like, they're like, yeah, whatever about the studying, but they freak out on the test. And I wonder if that indicates that they have a low opinion of what they consider to be their innate ability to do it, and they don't think studying is going to help them as much, or like they haven't, you know what I mean? Like they're
some of them, but I think the majority of them actually spend many hours studying,
Right,
and
right.
they don't really know what to study or really have a firm understanding of the concepts that they're studying. So I think it affects them. So I do think that writing assignments that center on how do you approach this problem, you know, to reinforce because another thing when I get to some of the comments that I found, because I did have them write paragraphs, you'll see that where they are highly anxious, so the most anxious on an exam is when you get to the word problems.
So that's true for native and non-native speakers?
True for native and non-native speakers. It's word problems, it's they know that sometimes they have to bring in outside formulas or just really the problem-solving procedure. It's really hard for them to follow that. And so your F students and your CD students are incapable of even approaching the problem if they're ill-prepared and don't know how to study.
I have just a follow-up question. Did you have any F students report to you that this process helped them?
That's one of my findings because I did qualitative findings.
Oh, okay.
But go ahead.
I found that the F students had the most improvement. There was one D student that actually got an A on that. That was the biggest difference, had 27-point difference from exam 1 to exam 2. But I have to say I happen to know that he actually got married in between exam 1 and exam 2. So probably on exam 1 he didn't have time to study study, and he got A's on the second and third, and I think he might actually end up with one drop score getting an A, so we won't go there. But he did have the biggest difference.
As a married man.
As a married man, he's happy, less anxious.
Conclude that.